Hi, I'm Leanne Harris, CEO for Keller Williams Portland Central. And today on Getting to Know Your Realtor, we have Charlie Kimberly. Hi, Charlie. How are you today?
I'm doing very good. Thanks, Leanne.
And I was just saying, ooh, look at your headset. You look so professional right before we got on screen. And honestly, you have such a great voice on the headset too. So I know what's going to happen. The listeners end up pinging me later, or I get messages on, wherever it might be. What kind of headset are you using?
Good question. It's called the Jabra Evolve 75, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And telemarketing centers go out of business all the time, so you can find it used on eBay for cheap.
Nice. I love
Cheap.
it. Yes.
Yep.
Telemarketing. I did, I was in a call center when I was 30, and people always say, like, Leanne, how can you stay on the phones all day long like that? I'm like, well, when you work in a union environment for a phone company and you're literally attached to a headset, I just got used to it and I like it.
Yeah.
I just like it. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, I do, I've been in business with you for about 7 years now. We've known each other. We've worked for the same company, like United Home Group, and we have some interaction. And so I'll definitely have to share some of that with the listeners, because I think you're going to be a new dad pretty soon, right?
Very soon.
Oh, so exciting. Yeah. I love it. I mean, I know you have 2 boys already, but being another another baby is so exciting. So exciting for that. Okay. So tell us your journey in real estate.
Okay, cool. So I got started in real estate. I mean, to tell you the truth, I worked at a bank, right? I worked at a big bank here in Portland for quite a while. And the corporate 9-to-5 bank job just got to me, right?
Yeah.
I literally quit that job one Friday. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. Peacefully. It was good. It was a good breakup, but it was immediate. And I remember walking home down Northwest 23rd Avenue here in Portland where I lived. I was like, what in the world am I going to do to pay my bills? You know?
Yeah.
Started looking into real estate over the weekend. That next Monday, I got in contact with actually a handful of people at your old brokerage here in Portland.
Yeah, at the Sunset office, right? And somebody had interviewed you. And I remember this because they took you through this massive interview process, and somebody was like, this guy's talent. That's right. I remember that.
And that didn't work out.
Yeah, you were like, nah, you're not my person. Okay.
Yeah. Either way, so I got in contact with Cody Gibson here at KW Portland Central. And I remember this very clearly. We were sitting at a coffee shop in Northeast Portland, and he wanted to, we agreed that we wanted to work together. I told him, I was like, hey man, here's the thing. I have $7,000 in my account. I don't know if I'm ready to make the jump into real estate yet, like full commission.
Yeah.
He's like, well, if you do what I tell you to do, we can make it happen. I was like, okay, what's the absolute worst that could happen, So we did it.
That's awesome. And did it take off like wildfire in the beginning, or did it take a few months?
So if you would have asked me that then, I would have said it took a long time.
Yeah.
I was down to my last few dollars of that 7,000. That being said, I mean, looking back, I had paychecks. That was roughly August 1st of 13. I had paychecks come in that year. So I had listed, pended, and sold and closed homes in those few months. So in hindsight, no, it didn't take long at all. But if you would have asked me in the moment, it took forever.
I think that's what a lot of people don't understand making the move into real estate, is that there is this piece where it's like, it's so, like, that beginning piece is so slow, and then it gets frantic. And so it's almost this bipolar relationship in real estate of like, which one is it? Is it dead or are we frantic? And so, so you get into real estate, and your journey since joining Keller Williams has also been very interesting, because you went from a team member and you're actually running a team now, and you're very successful. You do it on your own. You've got how many agents now? You just told me this morning. I was blown away.
Yeah, 13. We have 13 agents. Then myself, I'm also licensed, and we have 1 full-time admin.
And what was your production last year?
We sold 120 units in 2020. And to tell you the truth, halfway through 2020, actually, in July of 2020, we had 6 agents. So all that growth happened in the tail end of 2020.
That is so awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think that people really, we didn't know in March when the pandemic hit, right? And you and I, we come to the office every day, and we work very long hours. Mostly because we like it. We're very passionate about our jobs, but we were like, what do we do? Are we allowed to be here? Are we not supposed to be here? We're like, are we getting arrested? Who's getting a fine? Like we did not know what was going to happen. And then for real estate to almost like quiet down overnight, I was like, what are we doing? And
Yeah.
of course it went gangbusters. So congratulations on 120 units. That is awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Man, I'll remember that forever. I was in here middle of March one day and you told me I had to go. And I
Yeah.
didn't think anything of it. Okay, Leanne, I'm out of here, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then I
Yeah.
saw you like 10 minutes later. You're like, no, Charlie, seriously, like this is for real. You gotta, we can't be in the building. I think
I
a
mean, they
cleaning
were
crew
telling
came
us
through.
that OSHA was coming to shut people down and give us fines, and I was like, "What?" And so then finally, I mean, people have asked me this question, like, "What was it like to lead in a pandemic?" And I'm like, "Oh dear God, like I don't even know where to start." But
Right.
even for people, like I was like, "Charlie, you got to go," and you're like,
Yeah.
I rent an office here. What am I supposed to do?"
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know where to
So
go.
crazy. It's insane. Well, give us 3 takeaways or nuggets that people can use by listening to this podcast.
Yeah. So like you said, I started at tell you the truth, I started for sale by owner and expired. And now I lead a team, and I've been leading this team probably for 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah.
So I think I only closed 2 homes on my own in 2020. So I'm pretty much out of production for the most part.
Yeah.
And one thing that I see often with new agents, our team does really well with brand new agents, is that a lot of people, and this is not completely bad, but a lot of people come to us for the education,
Yeah.
right? Like they say, hey, Charlie, PRG, Keller Williams, whoever can teach me how to get into real estate.
Yeah.
And they get so interested and so excited about learning how to sell real estate that somewhere in that whole mess, they forget to go sell real estate.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's this really weird spot for new agents where they get caught up in reading The One Thing or Shift or MREA or one of these books that were like, are we trying to be a good reader or are we trying to be a good real estate agent?
Yeah. I think what people forget is like from the 6 personal perspectives, that's a Gary Keller, program and
Mm-hmm.
a KWU program that I've loved to teach over the years, but it says learning for earning's sake. And a lot of people just like to learn, and Portland's kind of chock full of that, right? We've got all these people that love to get all these degrees, but I'm like, we got to learn to do it or to make an
Yes.
impact in the world or to achieve your dreams, right?
You've heard that saying, and I'm going to butcher it, but there's something like strive for excellence and money will come from the excellence.
Yeah.
That's always struck a chord with me because like, wait a minute, why don't I just strive for the money and the excellence will follow that?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the mindset that a lot of new agents should take. Like, let's go in here, let's sell a few houses. It might not be the prettiest transaction, and Amy Loeb might not be proud of it. That being said, if we can get in and we can do it, we can make a career out of this, right?
We're going to have Amy come on as a guest speaker because I'm telling you, we talk about her in almost every single podcast.
Yeah, I bet.
Well, that's awesome. I agree with you though. And you know what else I would just even piggyback on that is that I feel like they don't understand where the business actually comes from. And I've seen people that have joined your team, they're earning, grossing. And so that means gross before taxes is all it is because they don't even have real estate expenses and they're pulling in 6 figures and then they decide that they're going to go out on their own and I watch nothing happen. And so there is structure in a team. And a lot of people have asked me that same question, like, Leanne, why do you stay part of a team? And the reason why I do is because I do enjoy the structure of others around me. And I think people get lost when they're on their own sometimes.
Absolutely. That's another thing that I think people could take from my story or my experience in real estate. When I was brand new, Cody told me, he's like, hey, Charlie, we need you to only call FSBOs and expireds. That's it. That's all you're doing. He actually gave me let me borrow a Prius. I don't know if you remember the old Prius that had
the wrapped one.
Yeah, it was wrapped in Portland Real Estate Group's like, this is your car. You just call those expireds, some FSBOs, and you run around town and talk to them. Like, cool. We had a team meeting, Keller Williams team meeting, and he discouraged me to go to it. And I was like, why? He's like, you just need to do this. He's like, just be married to this plan for the next little bit. And I did that, and I ended up crushing it. I think 67 listings my first year.
Wow.
Without knowing that was good, because I wasn't going to team meeting. I wasn't really talking to anybody else. I wasn't hanging out with other agents. I was just going to work like I did at the bank, called my FSBOs, went on the appointments, cruised the Prius around. That was my job. And I think a lot of new agents do that. They they bounce around. They don't stay in the lane that they choose to be in,
Yeah.
or they don't choose the lane to begin with.
Yeah. I agree. I think that it's that frustrating first part where it's right before the chaos, and then they kind of they make changes. They think the grass is greener, whatever it might be. But yeah, for sure. Okay. What nuggets?
I don't know. To tell you the truth, a lot of my beginning days were kind of based on that, right? Based on lead gen and appointments and kind of learning as I go, right? Like striving for the business and having the excellence follow. I think somewhere in that, like I've been here almost 8 years now. It'll be 8 years in July.
Yeah.
So I've sold quite a few homes. We do pretty well with it. Somewhere in that time, people start looking to you for advice and looking at you as like this next level, whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that necessarily comes from anything other than just repetition.
Yeah. I agree. And also not being afraid to fail. You'll throw yourself out there and you'll kind of build that plane midair, right? And you and I have kind of talked about this, even building your team. At first it was making phone calls, and then you were realizing like there's other ways to attract talent to your team. And so, you sometimes just go for it and then it happens, Yeah. Anything else you wanted to share with the listeners of tidbits that they could take away, or why they should use Portland Real Estate Group?
Why the agents in Portland Real Estate Group?
No, I would say like, why would a seller want to list with you?
Oh, we have some great agents on our team. We have some really good agents on our team. A lot of teams, as you know, it's a trickle down effect, right? Like it's one guy at the top and then everybody else makes 45, 35K a year to do projects for the guy at the top. That's not our model at all.
Yeah.
Right. That's not our model. Every one of our agents is encouraged to grow their own business and do their own thing and develop and make all this money they possibly can. They can do their own listings. They can do their own buyers. And for the most part, a lot of our agents are doing it really, really well right now.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. And they're busy. My gosh, I've seen them so slammed.
We have a very busy group. Yeah.
I love that. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to touch on with that. I mean, you said 67 houses your first year.
Yeah, and that was pretty consistent for my first 3 years.
So I haven't talked to anybody on the podcast about FSBOs or expireds, and so I know this wasn't on the questions, but I told you it was going to be pretty organic and authentic when we get on screen. So tell me about, how did you overcome the fear of calling a FSBO? Well, first of all, I think it's important for the audience to understand that a for sale by owner is actually saying, I want to sell my house. They're not saying they want to sell their house. And so when real estate agents say, oh, it's a dirty business to chase down expireds and to chase down this, I'm like, I don't know if it is, because they need to sell their house. It's just that somebody didn't do a good job for them. And so really what you're doing is you're competing against a bad experience that they had in real estate. Isn't that about right?
For the expired, yeah.
Yeah. And so how do you overcome their bad experience and sell to that?
So I guess it's the same for both FSBOs and expireds. Like you have to build trust, right? And a lot of real estate agents go into these transactions, granted most of them with their sphere, and they want to be liked. Oh, I'm friendly. Oh, I'm happy. You like me. I like you. Let's go work together. Right. Which is great. That's cool. And I've had a lot of those transactions myself too. That being said, with for sale by owner expired, yes, they do have to like you, right? We have to smile and be friendly to each other and all that, but they have to trust you. Like there has to be step two, because ultimately we're going to list your house and you need to listen to me, right? Like I can provide value to this relationship, and you have to trust that going into it. So I think a lot of people in the sales industries have a hard time building the trust. Because it's push.
Yeah.
And we never have that trust.
Well, I don't think too, what I see from agents that are external, and I know we're a very experiential company at Keller Williams, and we have a lot of things that are kind of behind the scenes, and it's hard to explain it to people that are on the outside. But I think that we really arm our people with being the economist of the hour, the moment, the year, the whatever, and understanding what is really going on in numbers. And that when you go out and you have an intelligent conversation, you can be the true fiduciary during the transaction because you have armed yourself with good information. And as you know, we have amazing reports that come through the Market Center just to utilize numbers and true data and science.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go in there like, I really, really hope you like me. Like, I remember one time I didn't put out that our numbers report, and I won't share it with everybody out loud because it is an internal thing, but we have a numbers report, and you took me to task. You're like, you give me that freaking report. I was like, okay, fine, I'm bringing it back. And we actually have an actuary that puts those numbers together. And a lot of people don't even know that how high level those reports are. So I do think you have to earn the trust.
Yeah, and those reports like that are fantastic because it takes somebody like me who's not a numbers guy.
Yep.
I can just show them this and regurgitate what that says, and it makes me look like a numbers guy.
Yeah, I would disagree. I think you're a little bit more of a numbers guy than most people. I mean, look, you used to work in a bank, and there's some other things. Like, a lot of people are just friendly. There's something I
Yeah.
was going to say before, and I was thinking about it with your team, and I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
about how you and I were kind of talking about, like, I don't think that real estate agents sometimes understand how they actually got the business, or they get traction, or they get certain things. And it's funny because you actually do fitness competitions.
Mm-hmm.
You've done Ironmans. You are I mean, wow. Like, Ironman, first of all, is like way over my head. You know that I'm like, I've done some half marathons, and then I'm like, in, I'm out. Like, I need some, like, I got my Girl Scout cookies delivered.
Yeah, yeah.
But you literally are one of the most consistent people I know. You've done those competitions, and you've stayed on it. And it was quite a few years ago. And I remember what you did is you hooked me up with a trainer, and you got me a meal plan. And what's funny is that act of service towards me had me helping you with building your team. And anytime that you asked me for something, I was giving it, right? Like, and I didn't put it together for a while, where I was like, God, people don't realize what actually ties people back to them. And you do a really good job of just being of service to people, but it's a little bit quiet. You know, you're not that big flashy guy that's like, I'm doing this for you and I'm doing this for you, but you are always a person that gives.
That's feedback that I get a lot. Is I had a guy tell me a while back, says, Charlie, you're a really good steak, but you got to make it sizzle.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, well, thanks for the advice, buddy.
Everybody about it. Yeah. I mean, that's funny because I do think that you're a little bit more low key when it comes to your service, the services that you give people. But if I had a homeowner that was listening to this, a buyer or a seller, I would definitely tell them to work with you, because that is what you do. You are not a person that expects something back in return. You're like, I see you have a problem, and I can tell you're raising your hand with your problem, and you need help, and I'm going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
very cool. Very cool. Okay. Anything else you want to leave the listeners with?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I think we got it.
I know you have a question for me.
Yeah, that's one thing, because you were in sales prior to your role now, right?
Oh gosh, yes. I've been in sales my whole life.
Okay, cool. So like you, I started in sales, and now I'm kind of like leaning towards leadership. And one thing I've been battling with lately is the idea of real true value. That, I mean, you and I both lead real estate agents, so it's the same, right? Like real true value that somebody will stick around with and stay with Portland Real Estate Group or KWPC for, in relation to the perception of value. Because there's been a few times in my career, I almost said a lot, we could call it a lot of times in my career, where I've had to like inflate the vision or inflate the perception of what this could be.
Yeah.
So I guess, how do you do that? Because you lead, 30 times the people that I do, more than that.
Almost 1,000 people now.
Oh yeah, that's more than 30 times. Yeah.
So first of all, I think that it's really important, and I think it's important for listeners that are homeowners that are looking to work with somebody, is that I think that this is a very transient type of industry, and people move a lot. And I don't think that that's stable. I don't think it's consistent. I think people should, be consistent with their brand for a long time. But really, the reason why I joined Keller Williams was because the brand stands behind you, not in front of you. And so I don't think the brand should be everything. I think Portland Real Estate Group is the brand, and Keller Williams kind of propels you behind the scenes. So first of all, I think this industry by nature is very transient, and I just have to understand that part of it. And it can be very personal sometimes, for sure. And that's why I'm constantly looking for new talent. And what I would tell you about, here's the thing, the reason why I finally am okay with that and I'm a little settled with it is because, as you know, as a bar and restaurant owner back in the 90s, and we owned a huge amazing bar called Moody's, and it was like lines down the block. And I mean, people have told me they've met their partners and their spouses there, and all sorts of crazy stuff, you know. But really, what we knew was that the discotheques and the bars and the really popular places would only stay popular for about 2.5 years, and that you had to bebop around. So we decided to buy the building, a commercial building, and also reinvent. So we constantly were reinventing in new locations, and we were super smart about it. So we had, you know, the Tonic Lounge and Momo's and Moody's, and we had all the crazy places, but we bebopped around the city with a person that owned some commercial real estate. And anyway, we were smart about staying in front of the market, if you will. And we did phenomenal with that. So real estate, very similar. I think that it's transient. I think that there's a lot of people that are constantly looking for that bright, shiny object. And I think that people that are truly running their business like a business do understand great value. And what I would tell you as a leader out there in any industry, and I was on with the Portland Business Journal yesterday. I was the woman of influence in 2019, and I was with other women yesterday. Get out of your industry, no matter what you're doing out there. I don't care if you're selling real estate or you're running a bank or it doesn't matter. Get out of your industry and go talk to other leaders, because what I was able to, you know, come up with yesterday was a lot of stuff about commercial real estate that I was like, oh my gosh, now I know who's moving all over the city, and now I can help them, right? And so what I think lends value is solving people's problems, and also having a leader that gets out of what they're doing right now and goes and finds new content. Because aren't we all really looking for new content? I mean, when we're looking for that bright, shiny object, it's really a new book that we want to read.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's what it is. It's not staying in your own circle. You know, I tell people all the time, if you want to change what you're doing, stop listening to your own thoughts.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What got you here is not going to get you there. So go find somebody else that can get you there.
Yeah.
But don't regurgitate either, because that drives me crazy. And I agree with that. You know, I'm like,
yeah,
I want new content.
yeah. We got to have something new.
Yeah, for sure. And I think any great salesperson too, that's really what we're doing, is we're just solving problems.
Right. That's one thing that Cody always pushes me on, is like, I can't help somebody else grow until I grow bigger.
It's true.
Yeah. So whether that be new content or just, you know, well, yeah, I guess it's all new content, just new stuff for myself.
Yeah. Somebody asked me a question the other day. She said, what book should I be reading on how to build wealth? And that's such a loaded question. She's like, I don't want to know the mindset thing. You know, I want to know the actual how to, right? And so you teach Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
Which first of all, anybody who has debt, I would tell them to start with Dave Ramsey. Yeah. If you're out of debt and you're at the place where now you're ready to start making investments, I'd go to Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Because that is like boom, 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 101. You know, so that's what I'm saying about getting out of your own mind.
I read a book recently by a guy named Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that group.
Yeah, I like that.
And like the last chapter, the last paragraph, right at the end of it, he's like, now you have to act. He's like, don't just go be the best person at reading this book. Totally. Like, go buy something right away. And for me, my wife and I just bought an investment property recently, and the hardest thing in the world is committing the dollars for me. I know. Like pulling money out of my account. I didn't realize how bad it hits my soul. You know, like it's tough.
I know.
It's tough. So I mean, I've bought and sold hundreds of homes in this industry, and having to do it myself, where I know the process, I totally get it, I understand it all. Yeah. But having to actually part with the money, God, it's a heartbreaker.
I remember my second investment, because I was still so gross on the first one. Like I was still nervous, you know, and I had flips before, but I always knew that I was going to be selling them right after. So the money was always flowing. These were like buy and hold, which we have a book called Hold It, Keller Williams too, which is also pretty fascinating. But it was a guy in our office, Chris Dawkins, who you know, and Chris literally screamed at me. He goes, "You're just stupid if you don't buy this second one." And I was like, I'm going to buy it. But I almost had to be like shooken to get it going, because it is scary to release the money. It's why people don't hire their first assistant in real estate. They're afraid of writing the check for salary because they don't know that it will actually return dollars.
Yeah. Leanne, that's funny. You know Joe Bell up in Anchorage?
Yeah.
I was sitting in a hot tub with him one day in Utah, and he was explaining to me his business model of flipping homes up in Anchorage. And I was like, I get that. Like, there's no way you make that much money doing it. Like, I totally understand all that. He's
Yeah.
like, it's not understanding it with your head. It's doing it with your heart. That's the hard part.
Yes.
And at the time I didn't get that,
Yeah.
but having done it now once myself, I'm like, okay, now I get it. It's that grind, not that grind.
Yeah, for sure. And then I'm always afraid, I don't know if that you went through this, but I'm like, I'm going to be poor. And I just freak out. I'm like, so when somebody said to me, I don't want to hear these crappy mindset books about becoming a millionaire, I'm like, oh no, like you have to start with that. Because if you don't get your mind right about what building wealth looks like through leverage and through investments and things like that, just like you said, mind, head and heart, you're not going to be able to get through the other parts. It's a lot to stomach. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm very, very, very deep in crypto, and I'm deep in the stock market. And every freaking day I'm in those apps, like just a psycho. Yeah. I'm like, settle down. The stock market's going to go up, stock market's going to go down, but I'm just like constant. So
that's fun.
It is kind of fun. It's like gambling every day with your life. Well, congratulations on the new baby coming. Super exciting.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you being on, getting to know your realtor today. And thanks for everything that you do for the community, Charlie. We appreciate it.
You too, Leanne. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us today on Getting to Know Your Realtor. This episode was brought to you by Lifeline for Hope. Be sure to catch us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, and be sure to subscribe. Thanks so much again for joining us today. Have a great day.